Adidas is the second biggest sports company in the world and dominates several markets around the world. Despite this vast success, they have not been able to penetrate the Indian market. So why did Adidas fail in India, and will they eventually be able to succeed in India? Make sure to stick around till the end to find out. Welcome to Hari's Hobbies. So Adidas was actually founded by Adolf Adi Dassler, who sold sports shoes in his local market that he made in his mother's laundry room. His brother Rudolf rejoined the business in 1924 after he returned from World War I. It was not an easy journey for the two. There were several issues like unreliable electricity. In such cases, one person would pedal a stationary bike in order to generate power and the other person would run the equipment. The Dassler brothers were really focused on spiked athletic shoes that could be used for several athletic events. They wanted to transition from the old model using heavy metal spikes into canvas and rubber. And in 1936, Adi was able to persuade Jesse Owens to use his handmade spiked shoes in Summer Olympics of 1936, and this brought world fame to the Dassler Corporation. By the time World War II rolled around, they were selling 200 shoes every single year. During World War II, US forces almost completely destroyed their factory, but they were able to convince US forces that they were only interested in manufacturing sports shoes. The occupied American forces actually became major buyers of the Dassler shoes, and they brought it back to America. In 1947, the brothers actually split, and Rudolf Dassler created a company called Ruda, which is later rebranded as Puma, and Adolf Dassler created Adidas. There's an urban legend that says that Adidas stands for All Day I Dream About Sports, but it's actually just Adolf Dassler's nickname Adi along with his last name Dassler, which forms Adidas. In 1952, Adolf acquired the iconic three-stripe logo from a Finnish footwear brand Karhu Sports, and he was able to buy it for just 2 bottles of whiskey and 1,600 euros. After Adi died, the company actually struggled for several decades until Tapi bought it in 1989. He bought the company for 143.9 million euros as he was a specialist in saving companies from bankruptcy. He moved production overseas, used Madonna as marketing, and was able to create the Adidas that we know today. But unfortunately, later he was put in prison for match fixing. But before he went to prison, he was able to make the company profitable and sustainable. Since then, Adidas has grown around the world, made huge brand deals, and today they are the second biggest sports company in the world, valued over $50 billion. So why was the sporting behemoth not able to break into the Indian market? First of all, there was a plethora of counterfeits going around in the Indian market. These are sold through Amazon, Flipkart, or Snapdeal, which are large e-commerce retailers in India. Most of the time, these counterfeits had terrible quality and were priced much cheaper, and so many people got scammed by them. But there was also a handful of really good counterfeits that were actually comparable to the quality of Adidas shoes. And people were fine with these. They didn't care that it was a counterfeit as long as it was good quality, and many people didn't even know that these were counterfeits. Adidas brand protection managers and e-commerce sites really try to buckle down on these counterfeits, but it was very hard as it was hard to tell whether they were counterfeits or not. They would use pictures of real authentic shoes in the listing and then sell customers the fake ones. And the problem was, the good quality counterfeits actually received good reviews, which made it hard to distinguish from authentic products. And the ones that didn't have significant amounts of bad reviews were easily able to cheat the system. Snapdeal attempted to incorporate AI, which is scan the pictures of these listings and see if they were genuine products. But the problem was that genuine pictures were used in the listings, so this really didn't help. And not to mention the physical stores that were selling counterfeits. You really couldn't tell which stores were selling them, as they were often called discount stores and there were local stores as well. So you would have to go very deep into villages in order to be able to find these stores. These stores would sell counterfeits of Adidas shoes and knockoff brand shoes called Adidas. And these shoes were all much cheaper than authentic Adidas shoes, which made it hard for Adidas to compete. Now, why would the public turn to counterfeits and even prefer them over the original product? The answer is, the original products were way too expensive to start off with. India's poorest people live off just 45 cents per day, so Adidas shoes were way too expensive for them. Only 20% of India's population makes up the English-speaking upper class. This means that only 240 million people out of India's population are actually fit for Adidas' market. This is a smaller market than America, not to mention that even most of these people only had a fraction of the wealth of most Americans. On top of all of this, there are high import tariffs which inflate the prices even more. It's pretty clear why you would get pretty bad sales when you're trying to sell the same product for a higher price to a poorer population. Furthermore, Adidas underestimated the cost that it would take in India, like most Western companies do when expanding to other countries. They thought that the cost of labor would be incredibly cheap, and this is actually true for less qualified positions. But when you're looking for seasoned senior executives, they're pretty scarce and you had to pay them a pretty penny. Also, the real estate in India is a lot more expensive than most American places, so when you're building American-sized stores, you're going to be paying a lot more for them. This again inflated the price of the shoes and put it out of the budget of most people. And this is a problem with almost all Western stores, which is a lack of localization. Adidas came in and put stores just like New Jersey into India, and this does not work in India and really benefited competitors. The competitors were able to pay less for leases, electricity, and salary, and this really allowed them to offer cheaper shoes than Adidas. In India, there's two main ways to break into the market. The first way is to offer the cheapest solution, and the second way is to win the trust of the public. But building trust is a long, time-intensive process, but it is important to the success of a company as it creates customer loyalty. And Adidas really had trouble gaining the trust of the public as Indians preferred Indian goods. Now, of course, there's some national pride that goes into this, but the main reason is because locals think that it's better for them to spend money and give it to other locals. They would rather help a local shop owner than make a Western corporate giant richer. As a result, the Western-style stores really just ran up costs and inflated the price of the product, and this turned away most of people. And there's a huge underlying issue, which is that most Indians don't even wear shoes on a regular basis. Even people who have corporate jobs simply wear dress shoes to work, but then when they're going out with family or friends, they wear sandals or flip-flops. Indians simply don't wear casual shoes on a regular basis like Americans do. It would have really benefited Adidas if they localized their stores and sold more sandals and flip-flops instead of casual shoes. Plopping Western stores into new markets simply never works, and I'm not sure why companies haven't figured this out yet. And something else that really hurt Adidas' growth in India was her subsidiary Reebok. Adidas had bought Reebok in 2005 for $3.8 billion. Now Reebok was an underperformer in the global market, but not in India. They had a head start over their competitors in India and were actually able to do pretty well. This would all change when a man named Prem, the man in charge of Reebok India, would take the company in a new direction. Now, Adidas bought Reebok in 2005, but they don't actually merge until 2011 and their operations are kept separate. Prem knew that Adidas would eventually merge with Reebok, and when that happened, he wanted to be the man in charge of Adidas India, and as a result, he tried to do stuff that would impress his superiors. At this point, Adidas was slowly entering the market, and Prem really wanted Reebok to beat Adidas in order to show the Adidas officials that he was able to lead the company in the right direction. Now, there's nothing wrong with this. This is actually good. Competition, even within a brand, is really good as it pushes forward innovation. But the problem was, this didn't lead to innovation. This led to dumb choices that made Reebok look better on paper. He really expanded Reebok across India very rapidly, growing from just 100 stores to 800 stores in a matter of years. As he did this, he sacrificed the margins and profitability of all of these stores. He imposed high franchise costs and convinced owners to open franchise stores by promising that Reebok would deal with any excess inventory in the stores. But he didn't do that, and this made franchise owners really mad and they stopped making the franchise payments. But these issues wouldn't rise till much later, and to the Adidas officials, it looked like Prem was doing a great job, expanding Reebok all across India and getting a lot more franchise fees as well. As a result, when Adidas and Reebok combined and made Adidas India, Prem was put in charge. But eventually, irregularities would start to pop up and Adidas would figure out what happened. And Prem was fired for undisclosed reasons, so he might have done other bad stuff too, like faking numbers. Adidas did file a criminal complaint against him, so there probably is more to the story. Prem turned around and filed 2 cases against Adidas, one for defamation and another one for recovery of past dues. But that's all irrelevant. Whether he did it to impress his superiors or actually thought that was the right idea to expand Reebok, in the end, he had left Reebok in ruins and really hurt Adidas. And I would say that these internal issues were the main reason for Adidas' failure in India. Despite this rough start in India and vast internal issues, Adidas continued to sell shoes in India. But they would appoint a new leader, Dave Thomas, who would completely save the company in India. He would make Originals popular in India. In 2014, when he came in, Originals only made up 3% of the revenue, but by 2017, they were accounting for over 10%. Many of the local executives told him that wouldn't work, as India was very dirty and white shoes just wouldn't be manageable. But he had already let one opportunity slip away in Japan, compression wear, by listening to locals, so he wasn't going to let this one go. He went with his gut, and it turned out to be a great success. He made sure that when Indians entered the branded shoe market, that Adidas was their first choice. He was able to do this by marketing to local tastes and acting on popular trends. He didn't just recklessly add US-style stores that were formed to US tastes. He conformed it to what the Indian public wanted, and that's really all he needed to do. And just 2 years ago, Adidas became the first sportswear brand in India to reach the 1,000 crore revenue mark, and Adidas has continued to grow since then in India. Adidas is a large sports company that is very popular, especially in soccer. However, they had some trouble entering the Indian market as their shoes were not localized, their shoes were too expensive, there were several counterfeits, and there were several internal issues as well. But under new leadership, Adidas has really excelled in India, being able to add India to its vast portfolio. Maybe after seeing all of this great success for Adidas in India, Nike might jump in as well, but only time will tell. But that's all I have for you guys on why Adidas failed in India. Make sure to comment down below what company you would like me to cover next. Also, if you guys like this video, then make sure to drop a like and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more videos just like this one. But until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.